Hi, I'm Coach Amber, and welcome to the Meet RX Success Story podcast. Today we have Mariela with us, and she is going to talk about her success with the carnivore diet. Welcome, Mariela.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited.
Awesome. So tell us, before you started the carnivore diet, what was your health like? What was going on in your life that made you want to try carnivore?
Oh my God. So I have to say briefly, before carnivore, I was a low carber for 12 years, like very successful, but I did eat vegetables and kind of like an Atkins low carb type of thing. I had literally 3 of my kids and I bounced back super quick and was in my, pre-pregnancy weight super quick. So I've kind of always loved and embraced low carb, ketogenic type of lifestyle. However, and this goes back to like when I was 12, 13 years old, I suffered from IBS since I was like a young kid, and I was seeing IBS doctors, having fun colonoscopies, like, oh my gosh, all this stuff at a very young age. And it was crazy because it was very painful, and I literally looked like I was 3 months pregnant. And I've always been kind of small. I've had, I'm curvy, I'm Latina, so I do have some curviness, but it was just like this weird like bulge. And of course the GI physicians always tell you eat fiber and blah, blah, blah. So I pretty much did everything they told me. I would take medicine and all that. But at a very young age, I started a very unhealthy dependency on laxatives. And, because people are like, well, so then I went on to going vegan. Oh my gosh, I know. So because this one physician or this one IBS doctor was like, well, maybe you just need to eat a plant-based diet and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I can try this. I know. So I literally went from like eating basically, meats and all that. And I did have, some veggies and things like that to vegan and fruits, all the carbs, crazy. So it was very interesting. Initially, weight change didn't really, I kind of pretty much stayed the same because again, I was already kind of lean starting into it. It was kind of interesting because I didn't notice any improvement in my digestion. Quite the contrary. I had to start wearing like loose clothes. Sometimes even had to bring out my maternity shirts because during the morning it was fine, but then by the night I looked like Buddha. Like I was like, okay, why? And just it, it was very inflamed. And I was like, so I kept going. I did this for 6 years. Now, in the 6 years, I suffered from literally premature aging. I have a twin sister who never went vegan, thank goodness. And so we had like, baseline. We kind of looked similar. And then all of a sudden, and I don't live, my hometown is El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico. I grew up along the US-Mexico border. So I live in the Chicago suburbs area now. So I only go like twice a year. So they weren't seeing me every day, but then every 6 months, they're like, mothers, they know best. They're like, my mom's like, what's happening? Like, you don't look very good. Your colors look really weird. And so then finally after, sometimes you just try to be subtle. She's like, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but it's not working. You look really bad. You look older than your twin sister. And I started noticing pictures, like, literally, I looked like I was the older sister. And I'm like, what is happening? So I didn't do my research. And I have a master in science. You would think I would have like researched more of what was happening, but this came later because I started to notice kind of like a breakdown in my body. Not only that, I started getting depressed, and I'm typically a very positive person. I'm very much into spirituality, meditation. I have some gifts, that I've always, people call me psychic, whatever, but I've always been very in tune to this. And so a lot of vegans those type of, spirituality and veganism kind of go hand in hand. And so that's, I think, why I kept doing it, because I'm like, well, maybe it's a clear channel, whatever, you just kind of, but then I was like, but I wasn't feeling good, you know what I mean? And so I had wrinkles, I had depressions, like in places where like I lost literally, I look like Skeletor. Like my face was super, super skinny. I have a post out there in my Instagram with my before and after pictures, and it was just crazy. And of course, just seeing myself next to my twin sister, that was not pretty. So I still didn't stop because it was such a label, and I had had vegan followers. So you're like, but then I was like, between the depression and I, to the point where like I was very erratic and my kids were like, Mom, they were kind of scared of me because I was like roller coaster and I had never been that. And then I also noticed I'm a speech pathologist. So I have to write reports, diagnose children or, different types of population for communication disorders. And I have to write a lot of reports, a lot of paperwork. I noticed that I had like a foggy brain. Like I was very slow. I had so many errors. And I was like, so I started noticing just a decline and in like, imagine 6 years, right? So it's a long time. So I was like, something's not right. So of course, it just took me to like get to like a very bottom stage of my life where I was like really depressed. And I'm like, okay, I have to do something. And so, I guess the breaking point was when I got very depressed, in addition to like the way I was looking. And so, and again, it was hard to detach from the label because, the following, and which it was interesting because later I found out that His Holiness Dalai Lama eats meat. So I'm like, okay, if he can eat meat, I can eat meat. It was one of those things, but it was kind of like a psychological thing to detach. Like, so certain people that I have had vegan friends and even some that ended up switching later to a carnivore diet, like myself. It was such a huge, it's almost like a divorce, because you're like, oh my gosh, it becomes part of your persona. And it's kind of crazy. It's very cultish, like a cult, because when I did switch and I had to kind of post, because people were like following me on Instagram and I do bodybuilding. So it was like, I was doing my fitness and all this stuff. And then, I started just to say, it was kind of like, just started with eggs and, things like that. But then all of a sudden I got the hate messages, attacks, and where there's even like some mean videos about me, like, but it's okay. Like, I get it. Like, because it's such a dogmatic and unfounded really viewpoint, because really the planet, we're not going to save the planet by being vegans. Like that's a total myth, which later I ended up researching all this after the fact. I'm like, man, I should have done this before I went vegan. But people, you watch a documentary and they put like anything, you could just make anything with some information, which is not even scientific or has true research-based information. And so as someone with a master in science, I should have done that, but, it was a little late for that. But I did my research after, and because I had to understand what happened to me. Like, so I understood obviously the premature aging was too much sugar because they call it the sugar face. So I tell people that do love sugar, I said, just go easy on it because it will, sugar, what happens if you eat in excess, it starts binding to your collagens, the collagen in your face or anywhere in your body. So it starts to radicalize it and literally damage your cell, your collagen cell. And so obviously you start to lose collagen and elasticity and that beautiful plumpness that you want, because that's what youthfulness is. So I look, like I said, like probably 10 years older than what I look now. So this is what I ended up just going cold turkey one day to the next. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just start. And I had already kind of looked into, and I don't even remember how, probably from Instagram, I had just seen some like ex-vegans going carnivore and just reading. And it just kind of resonated with me because especially like the IBS issue. And then I found this researcher in Australia who's a gastroenterologist who had done a lot of research on IBS patients. And he said, okay, there's 3 groups in this case, study that he did. One was the first group was with a very high fiber diet. The second one was medium. And then the third one was 0 fiber, meaning just meat and fats. So which group do you think improved their IBS and symptoms and all that? The one with the no fiber diet. And I'm like, well, then why are they telling me to eat fiber? So I was so confused because, now we know Western medicine is so outdated and, it's based on really unfounded, not very good research and, going back to Ansel Keys and his flawed studies. And, I've written about it and I have a blog and I have had some other articles that I've just, because people don't know that in this whole myth of cholesterol and all this, eating red meat and all that. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, that is what I need to do. Because if this guy is, I'm all into looking at studies and that's what I did rather than reading articles or just websites and people that had, I was looking at the studies and there's so much studies out there if you just do a little research. So I did that. And so I literally from one day to the next, I just went to the store. I got eggs and meat and, chicken, which is whatever I could find. And so literally within 2 weeks, like not only did I feel amazing, but I had no GI issues whatsoever. Like my stomach was flat, but get this, the best part, I had abs. And I typically killed myself in the gym. Like I would go 5 to 6 times, a day. I mean, not a day, sorry, a week. Man, not even Schwarzenegger did that. So I ended up noticing just like a recomposition of my body. And I was like, wow, like after 3 kids having abs, that's kind of cool. But I didn't understand why going from a very low fat vegan diet, going to a high fat protein diet, that did it to me. So, I mean, of course I was happy, but I just noticed I started sleeping more, which that was something that I didn't even notice, because you think it's a problem of age. You're like, oh, I'm not sleeping well. Oh, I was sleeping like a baby. I had all this energy. My mental clarity was such a difference. My mood was stable. I was like back to my old self. And within really quick time, of course, I did supplement with collagen because I knew I was like Skeletor. And I'm like, okay, I need to get these cheeks back, and it's crazy how I was able to restore a lot of my face, because like all this was gone. And I have a pretty squared, I have between Native American and German, I'm pretty much a mutt, but have a lot of groups. But I had lost all that. It was just like, so I started to get even my bone. Like, it was so weird. Like there's pictures where this part like was very narrow. So I don't even know, like even my bone grew. It was very interesting just because I take pictures because I feel like pictures are the best measure to see. And I was able to restore a lot of that plumpness. And, of course I'm going against the clock. So there's still wrinkles there, around my eyes in places where the damage was done and I can't go back. But I was able to pretty much restore almost everything and improve. And now I don't have to work out 5 to 6 times a day. A week. I go maybe 4 to 5, and maybe I do 2 days like lower body, 2 days upper body. And sometimes I just, maybe walk around the neighborhood, especially now with COVID. And now I have a little bike, Now I have a home gym because I don't go to the gym anymore because of coronavirus. But I literally didn't have to make, because I do like to be healthy and I like to look a certain way, and I didn't have to try that hard. And that was the best part. Now I have time, for my kids, and I'm a writer. I have books. I have a book series, and I'm trying to get that into a screenplay. So I feel like more time and energy to do the things that I love, rather than, trying to kill myself in the gym to look a certain way. So just with eating a specific way, and then my spirituality, which is crazy, even that grew. So I don't know what the correlation is. I don't know if meat is more grounding. I can't explain to what that happened, but to me, like even my gifts open up. So I don't know. Maybe it's just my personal experience with eating meat. So it has been 2 years now. It's been since October. So we're in November. So over 2 years that I became carnivore, 100%. Do I sometimes eat peanut butter or keto stuff? Yes, because, the first year I was very strict because I wanted to heal, and that was my healing time. The first year I literally, because I had to, in a sense, rebuild my gut, and I had like a leaky gut because of veganism, and a lot of people don't tell you that. So I had to rebuild my gut. I had to take, supplements, and, because I couldn't digest anything, it was crazy. They don't tell you that when this happens. And of course, with my already bad digestion. So I had to rebuild my gut. I really stick to just meat, and meat and eggs pretty much were my staple. And I do love coffee. I do half, like kind of like half caffeinated and decaf coffee, just because it's like one of my guilty pleasures. And for a while, initially I went without coffee for a long time, especially that first year. I actually was caffeine free. And so, but I live in Chicago, and sometimes it gets cold, and I invite you to coffee. And so what I did is just like, as I got better, and I realized, because even dairy I couldn't eat. So now in the weekends, I have some cheese, or I have, I make a like a keto cheesecake, or, some, and I'm like, you know what, it's fine, because I noticed that it's not bothering me, because I feel like all the healing has kind of helped me to be able to eat those things, like a little bit of nuts if I go to a party, and I'm not like, but I do notice if I eat vegetables, my stomach kind of will inflame. So sometimes a salad might be the safe thing, but like if I have broccoli or something else, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, oh, here comes 3 months pregnant. So there's a picture that, that I sent you, that there's one that I literally looked 3 months pregnant, and it was really just an inflammation from just my IBS. Cause it wasn't even like that I was fat, but it looked like I just had like my midsection was just really, really extended. And so it was just not now. So now I feel like, I have that increased energy to do, I'm 41 already. So, I also do acting. So sometimes I do so many things. People are like, how do you fit it on one day, with your job, million jobs, and then writing, and then acting, and spirituality, and being a mom, and with 3 kids. And I'm like, honestly, it's the way I eat. I feel like that has given me a second chance. I call it the Holy Grail for me. It was for me because, I feel like I look younger than 10 years ago. I look leaner than 10 years ago. Sometimes even when I was in my 30s, I was like, wow, like my physique is actually stronger and leaner than it was 10 years ago when, I was number one, younger, a vegan, and like working out like crazy. So there's something to it, that to me is just kind of brought me full circle to, and I literally tried every diet under the sun. I grew up in the 90s when Kate Moss was the role model for women, and the Kardashians weren't in style back then. So girls like me with a butt and curves, oh my God, like I was dieting at age 13. I was crazy. I went all the diets. So when I changed my mindset to diets to just healing, and I was like, I don't care. I thought if I gain weight, I don't care. Like I want to heal myself. And the interesting thing is I didn't gain weight. Some people just have a fluctuation, maybe like 2 pounds, and then later it just all came off. So I noticed that the scale might have only changed like about 4 pounds, like lighter, like I'm smaller, but my I guess recomposition changed. So I fit into 0 double zero pants or extra small shirt. So I'm kind of more tighter, but it's better. Like to me I tell people, well, it's all in the meat, like it's all in the meat and the fats, and that's what it does to your body. So, and even my daughter, who has my same physique, started to on her own. Cause kids, they go from like, before going to puberty, they're eating, Doritos and candy. And then all of a sudden they can't, and they just gain a little weight, and they're like, oh no. And I told my daughter, look, I don't want you to do the crazy diets. Do what I did. I said, you can eat like if you want, because you can't enforce these things. I said, but I will help you, and I know we can work out together, whatnot. But she actually took a liking to it, and she loves it. But rather than, she's like, oh, this is really fun, because she loves steak and ribs, and we're from Texas, so she, kind of like the whole steak and potatoes and ribs type of thing, except the potatoes, but she doesn't really eat them. But now she learned, and she lost some weight, and she feels more confidence, and more than anything, she embraces her curves. And that's why I want her to, where we want you to embrace your body, but more than anything, be healthy, not be into these crazy crash diets, and which they're out there. And I even did the bodybuilding diets and the, cutting calories, and it just, so I feel now I'm at an older age, and I eat more calories now than I did back then, and I'm a smaller size. Go figure, right? Why did I even restrict myself so much? So I can probably out eat a man sometimes. Like people that are with me during the day, they're like, man, you eat that whole steak. I'm like, yeah, I love ribeyes. I'm not gonna let anything go to waste, or my omelets in the morning. And I do have bacon and sausage, and sometimes some of the dirtier meat, but I'm like, it's okay. And if I travel, I just make the best of it. But more than anything, I do stick with it, because I just know I feel better. Maybe once a year in Christmas, I might have carbs, and that will be the only day, just because I don't like feeling sick. And I do the very next day, when I have like the Christmas, eating everything, the next day I'm tired, grumpy, I have a huge stomach, and I'm like, why? I have a just headache. I'm like, no, this isn't even worth it. But to think that people eat like that 24/7, or they just don't really think about it, I'm like, how can you feel good like that? So when I know now, on the other end of things, on the other side of things, how it makes me feel. Well, to me, it's worth feeling good, and not despite the looking good, because yes, we all want to look good and healthy, and fit into our size 0 and have abs. Of course, who doesn't want that? But that was really the the side effects of carnivore. To me, it was about healing all the damage I did with all my dieting and the IBS and the veganism and just the crazy stuff that, so to me, it really was a therapeutic approach that really worked for me. And so, and I talk about it, and I've connected with a lot of vegans who were like vegans for 30 years, and they're like open, like this one lovely lady in, I forget, in Europe, Katya's her name, and she was like the mother of veganism there. She had a restaurant. I mean, literally, she built her whole career on that, into where 30 years later, her body was breaking down. And so we've connected. There's a lot of groups, and luckily there's some recovery vegan groups too, because it's such a number one psychological thing to stop that, and then just recovering from different issues, because there are multiple issues like Hashimoto's and autoimmune disorders that people don't understand, that most people can't be vegan, or because they can. It's gonna literally damage their health and they could die. Like these autoimmune disorders are really, they're threatening, and if you eat too many carbs and vegetables and all that, that's what's going to trigger it. And a lot of people that have been vegan kind of develop this. So I don't know what the correlation is, but it's kind of interesting to look into that. And even children, there's been so many vegan baby deaths and children. And I tell people, look, you want to feed vegetables to your kids? Awesome. But just give them eggs, give them chicken, give them meat. Like don't, and I know it's such a, right now, there's still such a push for veganism. And I roll my eyes every time I see like word plant-based, and I get it. I have friends even in the spirituality realm where they're, going vegan for a while. And I just say, just be careful. I said, do it as a cleanse maybe, but just eat eggs, I'm like, just be careful, because, and maybe people are different. I don't know, maybe their composition are different, but I definitely know that what happened to me, and I just say, try it, but just be aware that there could be some damage. And I luckily was able to come back from it and recover, but who knows if there's any damage, because I do know there's brain atrophy that happens with vegans. So there's a study that was done with vegan brains comparing meat eating brains. And so I know it sounds kind of funny, but so they measured not only in size. So the longer you go vegan, your brain literally starts shrinking. So why do you want that? You know what I mean? So, and cognitive functions and decline was shown. So that's something that was very alarming to me, because I start seeing the effects of that decline, cognitive decline. And like, I was like thinking, the depression, all that is mental health, right? And also the slower I was processing things, I was, again, making mistakes, taking forever to write a report. I'm like, this typically used to take me 30 minutes and now I'm taking an hour. So I noticed that. So with this atrophy, after the study, they said that if they were able to get meat back in their diet, some of the faculties would, in a sense, reverse, but not always, because sometimes you damage your brain, sometimes it's irreversible. So we don't know what we've lost, or, maybe some short-term memory, I don't know, long-term, functioning, executive functioning, just different areas that we still don't know. So I didn't want to know more. I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know, because I don't want my brain to keep shrinking, because I'm sure it had, and to lose more function. To me, my brain is everything. I love to learn. I'm a Gemini, so I love learning facts, and I'm a writer. So to me, I'm like, no, I need to make sure I don't want to get Alzheimer's or any, dementia. And so, and now that I'm on the other side of things, research so much, now there's, ketogenic diets, carnivore diets are used for cancer and dementia, and you actually reverse so many conditions that it's just beautiful to see, that there's so many younger physicians or researchers that get it. And they're, of course, going against a huge institution that still believes that in low-fat diets and, in grains and, eating less meat. But there are some that are doing it as a therapeutic approach. And of course, Dr. Baker. And then there's just so many that I follow and that I've read upon, and just looked at what they're doing, and it's impressive just to see how many people have healed and how many people continue to improve their life, with eating meat. And I always tell people, well, just think back thousands and thousands of years ago, the carnivores. We were cavemen, hunting and gathering, and we didn't have grocery stores or grains, we could buy and make tofu and, you know, all this other fake meats, you know, I'm like, that's not realistic. So if we just eat natural, you know, and even to me, people are like, well, can you eat a salad? I'm like, I could, but I don't want to. I'm like, why? It's not worth it, you know? Sometimes if that's like the only, like if I'm stuck in an airport where like, okay, maybe I'll have a chicken salad, but that's like, you know, the most I'll go into greens.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but the biggest thing, the takeaway that I'm getting is meat heals, right? And
Yes,
so that
it
is like
really does.
the most awesome things, and I get to hear this all the time. So I think it's amazing. And could you kind of touched on it a little bit, but could you give us a real brief idea of what a typical day looks like for you as far as food goes? And did you actually have any transitional issues when you very first switched from veganism to a meat-based diet?
I want to say maybe I got a little tired initially just because you're going from burning, like, you know, you're just eating carbs to like starting to burn fat, right, as fuel. So I remember about 2 weeks I was a little bit I got the keto flu, what they call it. Like I was like, oh my gosh, but I knew it, and I had done it before in the past, so I knew this happened, so I was aware. And I just had more salt in my diet and drank more water. So I kind of noticed that first change, but really I didn't have much other than positive things that happened. And so initially I did do some intermittent fasting initially. And I want to say for the first year I did do intermittent fasting, and I do like it. I think there's benefits to it as well. However, after a while, sometimes I was just following my own, you know, now I listen to my body. I don't force myself like, okay, you have to eat this. No, I listen to my body. So I started to notice that I was getting hungry in the mornings. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start eating breakfast. And so just to see and I'm always a guinea pig. I always put myself on, do my own case study, and I literally just write everything down. So I feel like that's the only way that you yourself, you can what causes you to get tired or what foods trigger something. So especially coming from my IBS, I literally would write if something triggered me or I felt bad, or, my stomach hurt, or, so I really now know what foods I can tolerate well and which ones I can. But so now I don't do intermittent fasting. I literally just have a little bit of coffee with keto cream, or just, a little butter. And then I might have a little eggs and sausage, just something like quick. And then I'll have, like, for lunch, any type of meat. So like meat, or sometimes I have chicken, fish. I mean, I do have some of that, but ground beef, I do try to buy grass-fed and as much as I can, or free-range eggs and things like that. I that's like my preferred choice. But I have sometimes when I'm traveling and I go through McDonald's and I get a burger without the bun. At the end of the day, it's not going to kill me. But I've definitely tried to focus. And I pretty much cook for myself, and I take my lunch to work with me, and I always have my little lunch box because I'm always prepared. And I think that comes from the mentality of working out. I had like all my meals, so I just couldn't continue that because I don't like getting hangry, and I always have food with me. And sometimes I have pork rinds or meat sticks, in case I'm, if I'm doing an acting shoot, or, a photo shoot, or if I'm just, whatever I'm doing, I always have food with me, and it's the food that I know is good for me. So people are like, what do you have in there? And then they look at that, they're like, they can't believe that, like, I'm eating all that. But it's just they kind of like, you eat that and you look like that. I'm like, trust me, that is what's going to get you looking like that. So, but people don't listen to me. Well, sometimes they do. I have had a lot of people who they're like, okay, you're doing something right, because I've seen you and you just, look happier and more energetic, and your body's getting tighter. So something's happening. I'm like, yes. So literally it like results show, right? And so, and then for dinner, I have, like, again, whatever, chicken, if I have leftovers, I have ribs, steak, whatever I have. So I just kind of buy it in bulk, and I prepare, I can even do the crock pot, but I pretty much eat 80 to 90% carnivore. And then in the weekend, I will have, like I said, a few keto desserts, things like that here and there, not every weekend. And so, but just like when I'm, maybe menstruating or some, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch Netflix and have a keto cheesecake, something like that. But yeah, so that's kind of like, so now I don't do intermittent fasting. I just pretty much eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, sometimes a snack. I just listen to my body, and sometimes I skip the snack just depending on the time. And so it's just kind of, I go with the flow. I've surrendered to any type of meal plan or like eating a specific time. I just eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full. And I really do. I mean, I eat a lot. I mean, probably 2,000 calories or more sometimes. It varies 18 to 22. I mean, I stopped counting. I used to literally track everything on Chronometer initially just because I wanted to know. I wanted to know how much I was intaking and how much protein and this and that. And then I just kind of know, well, it's working and I'm not going to log it anymore because why? You know, it's numbers. But I just realized all the results I was seeing and feeling. That was the most important part. Like, and my kids noticed the difference. They're like, man, mom, you're like chill. Like you're like not grumpy. And of course we all have our moments where we're, and I am Latina, so I have a fiery, sometimes, the soap opera mom comes out, but you know, sometimes I'm like, sorry guys, it happened here, but it's not. But before it was all the time. So they're like, yeah, it's definitely, they see the difference. And even my son, for a while right now because of COVID, like there's not much soccer going on, but he started to follow it and notice he improved in his performance in the field playing soccer and all that. So. And I tell them, you guys try it if you guys want it, because I don't want to enforce things on anyone. I want them to do the research. I want them to try it on their own. And it's kind of like, I know people, you know, maybe they're curious, maybe they'll try it. And if they see you, like, you know, I feel like you lead by example. And I think that by seeing me and they see that I work out and I have all this energy. So they're like, yeah, there's something about this. So I just said, you know, it works for me and I really love it. And I think that it saved me from so many issues. And so that's why I love talking about it and just recommending to other people. And just for them to research. Like I said, I don't like saying, oh, you have to eat this. I'm like, just look it up, you know, look it up. If you're curious, try it, you know, because some people are like, especially females, and I don't get it. They're like, I don't like meat. I'm like, okay. And I don't know if it's maybe, they're like, it grosses me out. And to me, I just love it. And like you should have seen right when I went vegan to eating meat, I want to say I ate a steak every single day. And I felt like because I didn't have a steak for 6 years and I missed it, you know? So I do love it. And I love the fat, especially, you know, I do have high levels of fat, like with butter and things like that. So that's something that I've kept up. But I tell them, well, maybe try chicken at first and transition. You know, I know some women don't, you know, aren't very into the steak, but I do. I love it. I do.
Yeah, I like steak too. I know exactly
yes.
what you mean.
And then I have my friends that are very spiritual. I'm like, trust me, I pray and I thank, you know, the you know, because I know it's like the cycle of life type of thing. I'm more like a Native American approach in a sense that you bless your food and you just thank the energy and the animal and all that, because, you know, that part was very important to me because I, you know, honoring this side. And so I pray for, and I thank for my meals. And so, you know, it's all energy will go back to the ground at some point, to Mother Earth. So we're all part of the cycle.
I like that. That's really awesome. Okay, just real quick, we're running out of time. Okay. You mentioned pretty much already the improvements, but was there anything that kind of surprised you that you weren't expecting as far as improvements go?
I feel like the recovery of my face, I didn't think that was, because I'm going against the clock. So that was a huge improvement, like to where I take pictures within 6 months, I had a different face structure. Like my bones really rebuilt. That was really a surprise. Obviously the abs were a surprise because someone who just worked out a lot, and I did something very interesting. I didn't work out for 8 months, just for a case study, just because I wanted to see if eating carnivore would maintain my muscle mass and my lean physique, and it did. I lost a tiny bit of muscle, but not much. I pretty much stayed the same size. But I just did it to see if it was true. And it was, but since I love working out, well, I just implemented because it's something that I enjoy to do. But that I did too, just to see if anything would happen if I were, you know, to lose or just lose my butt. No, it was all there. My legs were strong. So I was very surprised to maintain the muscle with not much exercise for that. You know, if I would have done that with any other diet, I would have just, like, everything would have fallen. You know, it was crazy. So that was something very interesting that I didn't expect. And then the energy, oh my goodness. I had heard of it, but just I do so many things, and the I guess my brain function again, because that was something that I noticed. Now I'm really quick and I can write a report in 15 minutes. So I noticed all those really pleasant surprises, but some of those that I just mentioned where I was like, oh my gosh, wow. Especially because we are, after a specific age, a certain age where, after three kids, you start losing things and your skin. So the fact that I was able to regain my, my chubby cheeks and, just improve really my skin and improve my wrinkles. Without having to do something. And because when I was a vegan, I go to Mexico, and my twin sister, who's she's a sports journalist, so she comes out on TV. So of course she has her doctors that glam her up and little Botox here and there. So my mom is like, I think you need Botox and you need probably like fillers. And the doctor was like, when I was vegan, he's like, wow, like, are you the older sister? And I was like, no, I'm not. We're twins. Like. So it was kind of bad that I ended up having to do Botox and I did fillers once. And after that, I was like, no, why am I going to be vegan if I'm going to like literally put stuff in my face that's not good? So that was kind of like, I just realized for me it was something that was just affecting my body, my skin, my health, my mental health. And I just knew that it wasn't the right thing for me to do. So literally Carnivore saved my life.
I love that. And I hear that a lot. And so there's obviously something to it. And yeah. Mariela, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking about your success story. It's quite amazing. And I'm so glad you're finding true health.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy. And I love to share. I have many people that, I've collaborated with them. And I'm like, yes, anytime. Because I just feel like people just need to hear different stories. And it's all case studies, and really this is how we build research. I said, there's so many more and more people trying it and seeing success. So I like to be that, one case study that, can maybe push for some change, or, or maybe just people understand that there's different ways and not every way is going to work for everybody. So that's another thing that I like to mention, just, try it. And if you find, all the benefits that I found, well, awesome, But that's why I tell my story. So just to share and just get a different perspective of health and what you can do even in your 40s and how you can look like you're 30, why not?
Heck yeah. And again, thanks so much for joining us, Mariela. And you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.